My name is Oliver Carter. A year ago, I married the most unreachable woman in New York, Sophia Anderson. At 28, she was already the CEO of Anderson Global Holdings, a company worth billions. Everyone who met her described her with the same words: cold, perfect, impossible to approach. But nobody knew that I was the man who slept beside her every night. Not as her husband. Not really. Just as part of a contract. Our marriage started with a deal. A simple agreement. 1 year. No feelings. No expectations. No interference in each other's lives. That was what Sophia wanted. And I agreed. Because at the time, I thought being close to her for 1 year was better than never being in her world at all. But I was wrong. The closer I got to her, the harder it became to remember that I was only pretending. Sophia was always controlled. Even at home. Even with me. Every morning, she would sit across from me at breakfast, reading business reports while drinking coffee. She rarely looked up. "Your schedule today?" she would ask. "Work. Then I'll pick up dinner." "Don't bother. I'll probably eat with clients." Okay. That was how most of our conversations went. Short. Polite. Like two strangers sharing a house. But I still noticed everything about her. I knew she hated thunderstorms. I knew she skipped lunch whenever she was stressed. I knew she secretly liked the strawberry cake from the bakery near our apartment, but always pretended she didn't. And I knew something else. Sophia Anderson was not as cold as everyone believed. She just didn't know how to show she cared. The problem was, I was tired of waiting for her to learn. On the last day of our contract, I placed the divorce papers on the table. Sophia walked into the apartment and stopped when she saw them. For the first time in a year, she didn't immediately hide her emotions. Her eyes moved from the papers to me. "What is this?" I looked at her. "The contract is over." Silence. She slowly put down her bag. "You already prepared everything?" I nodded. "Yes." "Why?" Her question surprised me. I smiled slightly. "Because this was always the plan, Sophia." Her expression changed. Only for a second. But I saw it. A flash of disappointment. Then she returned to the woman everyone knew. Calm. Beautiful. Untouchable. "You want to leave?" I looked at her. "I think it's time." She walked closer and picked up the papers. "You aren't angry?" I laughed softly. "Should I be?" "I don't know." That answer shocked me. Sophia Anderson never admitted she didn't know something. I looked at her carefully. "Sophia, we both knew this marriage had an expiration date." Her fingers tightened around the papers. "Right." She said it quietly. "An expiration date." I didn't know why those words sounded painful when she repeated them. I stood up and grabbed my jacket. "I'll move out tomorrow." Her head lifted immediately. "Tomorrow?" "Yes." "You already found a place?" "Yes." Another silence. I expected her to say something. Anything. Maybe good luck. Maybe thank you. Maybe just goodbye. Instead, she asked, "Oliver." I turned around. "Yes." She stared at me for several seconds. Then she looked away. Nothing. That hurt more than I expected. Because even after a year together, she still couldn't say she wanted me to stay. I smiled. "Good night, Sophia." I walked toward the door. My hand touched the handle. Then I heard her voice. "Oliver." I stopped. She rarely called my name like that. I turned back. She was standing there, holding the contract. Her expression was complicated, almost like she was fighting herself. "Did you ever regret marrying me?" I froze. I didn't expect that question. I looked at the woman who had been my wife for 1 year. The woman who never held my hand outside. The woman who never called me husband. The woman I secretly loved. I answered honestly. At first, no. Her eyes moved slightly. And now, I lowered my voice. Now I regret that I ever believed this was only a contract. Sophia didn't respond. Neither did I. Because I knew if I stayed another minute, I might tell her the truth. That I didn't want to leave. That I wanted her to stop me. That I wanted her to say she needed me. But she didn't. So I opened the door and walked away. I thought that was the end of my story with Sophia Anderson. I was wrong. Because 3 days later, the coldest woman in New York would do something nobody had ever seen before. She would come looking for me. And this time, she wouldn't come as my CEO. She would come as my wife. 3 days after I left Sophia Anderson's apartment, I realized something. I had spent an entire year being part of someone else's life. And now I had to learn how to live my own. My new apartment was smaller. Much smaller. But for the first time in a year, everything inside belonged to me. No expensive furniture chosen by a designer. No schedule controlled by a CEO's assistant. No pretending that I was okay with being someone's husband only when the cameras were watching. I told myself I was free, but freedom felt strangely quiet. My phone buzzed while I was making coffee. I looked down. It was a message from Sophia. Just 3 words. Did you eat? I stared at the screen. For a moment, I thought about replying immediately. Then I stopped. Because this was exactly the problem. One small message from her could destroy all the walls I had built. I typed, yes, then deleted it. I typed, I'm fine. Deleted again. Finally, I put the phone down. I didn't answer. Not because I hated her, because I still loved her. And that was the hardest part. At Anderson Global Holdings, Sophia sat behind her desk, looking at her phone. The message was still unanswered. Her assistant, Emily, stood nearby and quietly watched her. Emily had worked with Sophia for 5 years. She had seen Sophia handle billion-dollar negotiations without changing her expression. She had seen investors panic while Sophia remained calm. But today was different. Today, the CEO of Anderson Global was staring at a phone like it was the most important thing in the world. Ms. Anderson? Sophia looked up. What? Emily hesitated. Are you waiting for Mr. Carter's reply? Sophia's expression immediately changed. No. Emily raised an eyebrow. No. No. You've checked your phone 12 times in 10 minutes. Sophia looked away. I was checking emails. Emily glanced at the phone. The screen is on your messages. Sophia said nothing. Emily smiled slightly. Do you miss him? Sophia's eyes turned cold. I don't miss anyone. But her voice was not convincing. Emily had known her long enough to notice. Sophia wasn't angry. She was hurt. That afternoon, Sophia had an important meeting with a major investor. Normally, she would have been completely prepared. But something was wrong. A document was missing. A negotiation point had been overlooked. A risk she should have noticed slipped through. The executives in the room became nervous. Ms. Anderson, should we postpone? Sophia looked at the report. Usually, Oliver would have noticed this before anyone else. He always did. When she worked late, he would leave coffee on her desk. When she forgot important details, he quietly reminded her. When everyone around her only saw the CEO, Oliver saw the woman. For the first time, Sophia realized something terrifying. She didn't just lose a husband. She lost the person who understood her the most. The meeting ended. Sophia returned to her office. She picked up her phone. Still no reply. She frowned. Then, almost without thinking, she called him. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then the call connected. Hello. His voice. Just hearing it made her heart tighten. Oliver. A pause. Yes. She didn't know what to say. For a woman who could negotiate billion-dollar deals, she suddenly couldn't find one simple sentence. Finally, she said, How are you? I'm good. Really? Yes. Another silence. Sophia gripped the phone. You didn't answer my message. I saw it. Then why didn't you reply? Oliver was quiet. Then he said, Because I didn't know what you wanted me to say. Sophia froze. What do you mean? You asked if I ate. Yes. Why? She didn't answer. Because the truth was embarrassing. She asked because she used to ask every day. She asked because when Oliver lived with her, she knew he would always take care of himself only after taking care of her. She asked because she missed being someone he cared about. But she couldn't say that. Not yet. Just checking. Oliver laughed softly. A painful laugh. That's very Sophia Anderson. What does that mean? It means you care, but you always pretend you don't. Her fingers tightened. Oliver, I don't want to fight. I'm not fighting. I know. His voice became softer. That's why it hurts. Those words made Sophia silent. For the first time, she didn't know how to respond. Oliver continued. You don't have to worry about me anymore. I never said I was worried. I know. Another pause. But you don't have to lie to me. Sophia closed her eyes. Nobody talked to her like this. Everyone feared her. Everyone respected her. But Oliver. Oliver saw through her. I have to go. Oliver. Yes. She almost said it. Almost. Stay. Come back. I miss you. But the words wouldn't leave her mouth. So she said the only thing she knew how to say. Take care. The call ended. Sophia sat there for a long time. Then Emily walked in. Ms. Anderson? Sophia looked up. Her assistant immediately noticed something. The CEO, who never showed weakness, had tears in her eyes. Emily. Yes. Do you think? Sophia paused. Do you think someone can leave because they love you too much? Emily was stunned. Because this was not a business question. This was the first time Sophia Anderson admitted she had lost something. Emily slowly answered. Yes. Sophia looked down. Then what should they do? Emily smiled. Stop waiting for them to come back. Go find them. Sophia didn't answer. But that night, for the first time in her life, Sophia Anderson canceled every meeting. She left the office early, and she drove to the place where Oliver was living. Not because she was his CEO, not because of the contract, but because she finally understood something. She didn't want her fake husband back. She wanted her husband. The only problem was, Oliver might not be willing to forgive her anymore. I never expected Sophia Anderson to come to my apartment, especially not after she signed the contract termination papers without hesitation. That was the version of Sophia I knew. The woman who could end a billion-dollar partnership with one sentence. The woman who never apologized first. The woman who believed showing weakness was the same as losing. So when someone knocked on my door that night, I assumed it was my neighbor. I opened it without thinking. And then I froze. Sophia was standing there, not in her usual CEO outfit. No assistant. No driver. No expression that made everyone around her nervous. Just Sophia. A woman standing in front of my door, looking uncertain. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, I said, "What are you doing here?" Her eyes moved around my apartment. Then back to me. "You moved." I almost smiled. "Yes. You really left." I looked at her. "Sophia, that was the agreement." Her expression changed. "I know. Then why are you here?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That surprised me. Sophia Anderson always had an answer. She always knew what to say. But tonight, she looked like she didn't. "I wanted to see if you were okay." I nodded. "I'm okay." She looked at the small apartment behind me. The simple furniture. The boxes I hadn't completely unpacked. "You live here now?" "Yes." "By yourself?" I raised an eyebrow. That's usually how apartments work. She ignored my sarcasm. "You don't have anyone taking care of you." I smiled. "I survived before I met you." Sophia's eyes lowered. "I know." Her voice was quiet. And that was unusual. I stepped back slightly. "Sophia, if this is about the contract, you don't need to worry. Everything is finished. I'm not here because of the contract." That answer caught me off guard. I looked at her. "Then why?" She looked directly at me. And for the first time since I knew her, I saw hesitation. "I don't know." I almost laughed. "You drove here and don't know why?" "Yes." "That's very unlike you." "I know." The way she admitted it made me stop. Because Sophia wasn't defending herself. She wasn't pretending. She was just being honest. She came inside. We sat across from each other, the same way we used to sit at home. Except everything felt different. Before, we were pretending to be husband and wife. Now, we were two people who didn't know what we were. Sophia looked at the coffee table. "You still have that mug." I looked down. It was the cheap blue mug she once gave me. "You remember?" Her eyes moved away. "Of course." I was surprised. "You remember a $5 mug?" "I remember everything you gave me." That sentence made my heart stop for a second. I looked at her, but she quickly changed the subject. "Why didn't you tell me you were leaving earlier?" I laughed softly. "Would it have changed anything?" Sophia became quiet. I continued. "When the contract started, you made one thing clear." "What?" "You said this marriage was business." Her fingers tightened. "I didn't mean it like that." "But you said it." She looked down. "I know. And I believed you." Silence. Then she whispered, "Oliver." "Yes." Was I really that cold? I didn't expect that question. I looked at her. Sophia Anderson, the woman everyone thought was untouchable, was asking me if she hurt me. I answered honestly. "Sometimes." She nodded slowly. "I thought I was protecting myself." "From what?" She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "From needing someone." That surprised me. Because I never imagined Sophia was afraid of love. I thought she simply didn't want it. She looked at me. "When my parents divorced, everyone told me depending on someone was a mistake." Her voice became softer. "So I learned not to need anyone." I listened quietly. "But then you came." A small smile appeared on her face. "You were annoying." I raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me." "You cooked when I said I wasn't hungry. Because you hadn't eaten all day. You reminded me to sleep. Because you worked until 3 a.m. You complained when I ignored my health. Because someone had to." For the first time, Sophia smiled. A real smile. Not the polite one she showed investors. Not the fake one she used at events. A real one. Then she said, "I hated that." I looked at her. "You hated that I cared?" "No." She shook her head. "I hated that I liked it." That sentence hit me harder than I expected. My heart wanted to believe her, but my mind remembered every lonely night. Every time I waited for her. Every time I hoped she would see me. "Sophia, I know." She interrupted. "I know I was late." Her eyes became serious. "I know I made you feel like you were temporary." I didn't speak. Because she was right. You weren't. Her voice trembled slightly. "You were never temporary." I looked away. Because hearing that hurt. Not because it was bad. Because I had waited so long to hear it. "Why are you telling me this now?" Sophia was silent. Then she said, "Because when you left." She stopped. I waited. "When you left, I realized something." "What?" She looked at me. "My home wasn't the apartment." I froze. "It wasn't the company." Her voice became softer. "It was you." For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. But before I could answer, my phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was a business partner from my new startup. I answered. "Hello." Sophia watched quietly as I discussed work. When I hung up, she asked, "You're starting your own company?" I nodded. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" I smiled slightly. "Because I thought you didn't care." Her expression changed. That sentence hurt her. I could see it. "I care." I looked at her. She stood up slowly. "I know you don't believe me yet." She walked toward the door. "But I'll prove it." I frowned. "Sophia." She turned around. For a second, the powerful CEO disappeared. The woman standing there was just someone afraid of losing the person she loved. "I won't force you to come back." She paused. "But I'm not giving up on you." Then she left. I stood there, watching the door close. I thought my heart had already accepted losing her. But that night, I realized something dangerous. Sophia Anderson was finally trying to chase me. And the worst part was, I still wanted her to catch me. I thought Sophia Anderson would give up after that night. That was what the old Sophia would have done. She would have returned to her company, buried herself in work, and convinced herself that emotions were a weakness. But the woman who appeared in my life after I left was different. And that made things harder. Because I had spent a year trying to accept that she didn't love me. Now she was making me question everything. A week after Sophia came to my apartment, I received a package. There was no sender information. Inside was a lunchbox. I opened it and froze. It was the same kind of food I used to make for her. Healthy. Simple. Exactly what she needed when she was working too much. There was a small note. Only one sentence. "You always reminded me to eat. Now it's my turn." I stared at that note for a long time. Because Sophia Anderson wasn't the type of person who did things halfway. If she decided to care, she cared completely. But my heart was still afraid. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was her. I answered. "Hello. Did you receive it?" I smiled slightly. "The lunch." "Yes, I did." "Did you eat?" I paused. That question sounded familiar. Except this time, she wasn't asking because she was being polite. She actually wanted to know. "Yes." "Good." Silence. Neither of us hung up. Finally, I said, "Sophia." "Yes." "You don't have to keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Trying to make me forgive you." She was quiet. Then she answered, "What if I'm not trying to make you forgive me? Then what are you trying to do?" Her voice became softer. "Trying to love you the way I should have from the beginning." I didn't know what to say, because that was exactly what I wanted to hear. But wanting something and trusting it were two different things. "Sophia, I don't know if I can go back." "I know." Her answer surprised me. She didn't argue. She didn't pressure me. "I know I hurt you." I stayed silent. "But Oliver." Her voice trembled. "I don't want to go back either." I frowned. "What?" "I don't want the old relationship." She continued. "I don't want a contract. I don't want a fake marriage. I want something real." My hand tightened around the phone. "You mean that?" "Yes. Even if I'm not the man everyone expects you to be with." Sophia almost sounded offended. "Who said I wanted everyone?" I smiled. "Sophia, I spent my whole life trying to impress people who never mattered." She paused. "But you were the only person who cared when nobody was watching." That sentence stayed with me. A few days later, Sophia asked me to meet her. Not at her company. Not at some expensive restaurant. Just a small coffee shop near my apartment. When I arrived, she was already there. And something immediately felt different. She wasn't wearing her usual CEO expression. She looked nervous. Actually nervous. I sat down. You look like you're about to negotiate a billion-dollar deal. She looked at me seriously. This is more important. I smiled. Really? Yes. She placed a small box on the table. I looked at it. What is that? Something I should have given you a long time ago. I opened it. Inside was my wedding ring, the one I had removed when our contract ended. I looked at her. You kept it. Sophia nodded. I never took mine off. I looked at her hand. She was right. Her ring was still there. Sophia, I know what you're thinking. What? That I only kept it because of the contract. I didn't answer. Because she was right. That was exactly what I thought. She took a breath. Oliver, look at me. I did. I need you to understand something. Her eyes were serious. The contract ended. Yes. But my feelings didn't. I froze. Sophia Anderson didn't say things like this. Not to anyone. I was scared. She continued. I thought if I admitted I loved you, I would lose control. She smiled sadly. But I was wrong. Because I lost you anyway. For the first time, I saw regret in her eyes. Real regret. Not guilt. Not obligation. Regret. I reached for the ring. Sophia. She suddenly grabbed my hand. Her fingers wrapped around mine. A year. A whole year. And this was the first time she held my hand in public. I don't want to lose you again. I looked at her. What do you want me to do? She stared at me. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. A small, nervous smile. I want you to give me another chance. I looked away. Sophia, I don't know if I can. I know. She squeezed my hand. So I'll wait. You? Yes. The Sophia Anderson who hates waiting? She smiled. Apparently, my husband changed me. The word hit me. Husband. I looked back at her. She seemed to realize what she had said. Her face slowly turned red. For the first time, the woman who could silence an entire boardroom looked embarrassed. She looked away. I didn't mean. But I stopped her. Say it again. She looked at me. What? I smiled. Say what you just called me. Sophia stared at me. Her cheeks became even redder. I called you. She paused. Then quietly said, Husband. My heart skipped. Because that was the first time. Not in a contract. Not for appearances. Not because she had to. She said it because she wanted to. Then she stood up. I should go. But before she could turn around, I held her hand. Sophia. She looked back. And for the first time, the Ice Queen looked afraid. Afraid that I would let go. I pulled her closer. And she whispered, Oliver. Then she did something I never thought Sophia Anderson would do. She stepped forward, placed her hand on my face, and kissed me. Not a business kiss. Not a fake kiss. Not something for the cameras. A real kiss. The kind of kiss that said everything she couldn't say. When she finally pulled away, her forehead rested against mine. Her voice was barely a whisper. I should have done that a year ago. I smiled. Probably. She looked at me. Are you still leaving? I looked at the woman in front of me. The woman who had finally stopped running from her feelings. And for the first time, I didn't know the answer. Because maybe, I wasn't trying to leave anymore. After that kiss, nothing between Sophia and me was the same. But that didn't mean everything suddenly became easy. Love was not like a business deal. There was no contract. No clear timeline. No guarantee that everything would work out. And for someone like Sophia Anderson, learning how to love was harder than running a billion-dollar company. She had spent years building walls around herself. Now she was learning how to tear them down. And I was still learning how to trust the woman behind those walls. The first thing Sophia did surprised everyone. She came to my office. Not her company. Mine. My small startup had only been running for a few months. We didn't have a huge building. We didn't have hundreds of employees. But it was mine. I built it from nothing. When Sophia walked through the door, everyone froze. Because everyone knew who she was. The famous CEO. The woman who owned half the businesses in the city. My assistant, Jake, looked at me. Then looked at Sophia. Then whispered, Oliver, why is Sophia Anderson here? I smiled. Good question. Sophia heard him. She walked over and calmly said, I'm here to have lunch with my husband. The entire office went silent. I almost dropped the folder in my hand. Sophia. What? You just said that in front of everyone. She looked confused. Yes. You don't usually announce personal things. She looked at me seriously. I used to hide the things that mattered. Then she glanced around. I'm not doing that anymore. My employees immediately looked away. but I could tell they were trying not to smile. Because everyone knew one thing. The famous Ice Queen CEO was completely different around me. Later that day, I asked her, "Why are you doing this?" She looked up from her coffee. "Doing what?" "Showing everyone." She understood immediately. "I want people to know." "Know what?" Her answer came without hesitation. "That you are not a temporary person in my life." I didn't speak. Because that was exactly what I had always feared. Being temporary. Being the man behind her. The person who disappeared when the contract ended. Sophia put down her cup. "Oliver." "Yes." "I spent 1 year making you feel like you weren't important." She looked directly at me. "I won't spend another day doing that." But not everyone was happy about our relationship. Especially Sophia's family. Her mother, Victoria Anderson, had never liked me. When Sophia and I first married, Victoria believed I was only there because of her daughter's money. She never said it directly, but she didn't need to. Her attitude said everything. At a family dinner, Victoria looked at me and smiled. "Oliver, I heard your company is doing well." I nodded. "Yes. That's good." She took a sip of wine. "At least you won't have to depend on Sophia forever." The table became quiet. I knew that tone. A polite insult. The old Oliver would have ignored it. But before I could respond, Sophia placed her glass down. "Mom." Victoria looked at her. "What?" "Don't talk to him like that." Everyone froze. Because Sophia had never spoken to her mother that way. Victoria frowned. "I'm just making conversation." "No." Sophia's voice remained calm. "But you're disrespecting my husband." "My husband." Two simple words. But coming from Sophia, they meant everything. Victoria looked surprised. "You defended him?" Sophia didn't hesitate. "Yes." "After everything?" "Especially after everything." She looked at me, then back at her mother. "You didn't see what he did for me." Victoria stayed silent. Sophia continued. "When I was sick, he stayed awake all night. When I was under pressure, he was the only person who asked if I was okay. When everyone saw me as a CEO," she paused. "He saw me as Sophia." Nobody spoke. And I realized something. A year ago, Sophia would have avoided conflict. Now, she was standing in front of everyone choosing me. After dinner, we walked outside. I looked at her. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." "Sophia." She stopped walking. "Oliver." I looked at her. She took a breath. "Do you know what the hardest part was after you left?" I shook my head, realizing that I had everything. She looked at me. "A company. Money. Success." She smiled sadly. "But the one person who gave me peace." I pushed away. I didn't know how to answer. Sophia stepped closer. "I know I can't erase the past. I know I hurt you. But I need you to know something." "What?" She held my hand. "I choose you." Those words were simple, but they carried more weight than any promise. Because this was Sophia, a woman who had spent her entire life choosing business over emotions. And now, she was choosing me. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Sophia called me late at night. Her voice sounded different. "What happened?" "Nothing." I laughed. "Sophia, you only call at midnight when something happened." She was quiet. Then, "I miss you." I stopped. Because those words were impossible to imagine coming from her before. "What did you say?" I said. She hesitated. "I miss you." I smiled. "Are you feeling okay?" "Oliver." "I'm joking." "I know." Another silence. Then she said, "Can I come over?" My heart moved. "You want to come here?" "Yes." "Why?" Her answer was quiet. "Because I don't want to sleep in a house where you aren't." I didn't say anything. Because at that moment, I finally understood. The woman who once signed a contract saying our marriage would last 1 year was now afraid of spending one night without me. And when she arrived at my door that night, she didn't bring paperwork. She didn't bring a contract. She only brought herself. And one question. A question that would change everything. "Oliver." She looked at me. "Can I come home?" When Sophia asked me that question, I didn't answer immediately. Not because I didn't want her to come back, but because I had waited so long to hear those words. "Can I come home?" For a year, I had lived in a house that wasn't really a home. I slept beside my wife, but felt like a stranger. I wore a wedding ring, but wondered if it meant anything. I was the man standing next to Sophia Anderson, but I was never sure if I was the man she truly chose. And now she was standing in front of me. The same woman who once said emotions complicated things. The same woman who believed love was a weakness. She was asking me if she could come home. Not as a CEO, not as part of a contract. As my wife. I looked at her. Sophia. Yes. Do you know what you're asking? She nodded. I do. No contract. No contract. No pretending. No pretending. No leaving when things get difficult. Her eyes softened. No leaving. I watched her carefully. Why? She looked confused. Why? Why me? That question made her expression change. Like she couldn't believe I was asking. Oliver. She stepped closer. Because you were the only person who never wanted anything from me. I stayed quiet. You never cared about my money. You never cared about my company. You never tried to use my name. She smiled. You just cared if I ate dinner. I looked away. Because those simple things were exactly what I had done without thinking. Sophia reached for my hand. And I was too blind to see how rare that was. The next morning, Sophia did something that shocked everyone. She announced a press conference. When I heard about it, I immediately called her. What are you doing? Her answer was calm. Fixing something. Sophia, you don't need to announce our relationship. I know. Then why? Because I spent a year letting people think you were temporary. Her voice became serious. I want everyone to know they were wrong. I was silent. Then I asked, are you sure, Oliver? Yes. I have never been more sure about anything. The press conference was supposed to be about Anderson Global's next major project. But when Sophia walked onto the stage, she surprised everyone. Reporters immediately started asking questions. Ms. Anderson, is it true your contract marriage has ended? Are you and Mr. Carter separated? Was the marriage only for business? Sophia stood there calmly. The old Sophia would have ignored them. She would have given a perfect corporate answer. But this time, she didn't. She picked up the microphone. My marriage did start because of an agreement. The room became quiet. I watched from the side. Then she continued. But the agreement ended. A reporter asked, so are you divorced? Sophia looked toward me. Everyone followed her eyes. Then she smiled. No. The room exploded with questions. Sophia didn't look away. Because I fell in love with my husband before I realized it. My heart stopped. My husband. Again. But this time, in front of the whole world. She continued. I made the mistake of treating something real like it was temporary. I won't make that mistake again. A reporter asked, what changed your mind? Sophia answered immediately. He left. Silence. He was the first person who walked away from me because he respected himself. She looked at me. And losing him was the first time I understood what I actually had. After the press conference, Sophia found me outside. You didn't have to say all that. She smiled. I wanted to. You know everyone will talk about this. Let them. You really changed. She tilted her head. Is that good or bad? I smiled. Good. She stepped closer. Oliver. Yes. I have one more thing to say. What? She took my hand. Then she looked at me with a seriousness I had never seen before. I don't want to be your contract wife. I smiled. Okay. I don't want to be your temporary wife. Okay. I want to be your real wife. I looked at her. Then I asked, for how long? For a second, she looked confused. Then she understood and smiled. Forever. 3 months later, we had another wedding. Not because we needed a contract. Not because we needed to convince anyone. But because we wanted a new beginning. The first wedding was a business arrangement. The second wedding was a promise. When Sophia walked toward me, I noticed something. She wasn't the ice queen everyone feared. She wasn't the CEO who controlled everything. She was just Sophia, the woman who finally chose love. After the ceremony, she whispered, do you know something? What? I used to think losing control was the scariest thing in the world. And now? She smiled. Now I think losing you is. I laughed softly. You know I'm not going anywhere. I know. She held my hand tighter. But I still want to remind myself. Of what? She looked at me. That I am lucky. I shook my head. No. She raised an eyebrow. No. I smiled. I'm the lucky one. For years, everyone knew Sophia Anderson as the coldest woman in the city. The woman who never needed anyone. The woman who never showed weakness. But I knew the truth. Behind that perfect image was someone who only needed one thing. Someone who would stay. And after everything we went through, I was no longer her contract husband. I was no longer the man standing behind her. I was the man she chose. Her husband. Her partner. Her home. And this time, there was no expiration date. 6 months after our second wedding, people still found it hard to believe that Sophia Anderson had changed. At work, She was still the same legendary CEO. Decisive, sharp, impossible to intimidate. Her employees still stood straighter when she walked into the room. Investors still prepared for intense negotiations whenever they met her. But the people closest to her knew something had changed. Sophia Anderson had learned how to smile. And more importantly, she had learned how to say what was in her heart. One Friday evening, I came home later than usual. When I opened the door, I immediately noticed something was different. The lights were on. Music was playing softly. And there was food on the table. I looked around. Sophia? No answer. I walked further inside. Then I saw her. She was standing in the kitchen, wearing a simple sweater and holding a plate. Not a CEO, not a billionaire, just my wife. I smiled. Did you cook? She looked slightly offended. Yes. I looked at the food. Should I be worried? She narrowed her eyes. Oliver. I laughed. I'm joking. She walked over and handed me the plate. You always cooked for me. So I wanted to do something for you. I looked at her. The old Sophia would never admit she wanted to take care of someone. But now, she was proud of it. I sat down. After a few minutes, she quietly asked, Do you like it? I looked at her serious expression and smiled. You know what's funny? What? When we first got married, you never asked me if I liked anything. She lowered her eyes. I know. You just assumed everything was fine. She nodded. I thought if there was a problem, you would tell me. I smiled. And now? She looked at me. Now I want to know before you have to ask. That answer meant more than she realized. Because that was Sophia's biggest change. She no longer waited for people to leave before realizing they mattered. Later that night, we sat together on the couch. Sophia rested her head on my shoulder. A year ago, I couldn't even imagine this. The woman who avoided physical affection now held on to me like she was afraid I would disappear. I looked down at her. Can I ask you something? Yes. If we never had that contract marriage. She became quiet. What would have happened? She thought for a moment. Then she smiled. I probably would have spent another 10 years pretending I didn't need anyone. I laughed. That sounds like you. She lightly hit my arm. Are you making fun of your wife? Maybe. She looked at me, then suddenly became serious. Oliver. Yes. I'm sorry. I knew what she meant. Not just the divorce papers. Not just the cold attitude. Everything. The moments when she made me feel alone. The moments when she forgot I was more than a name on a contract. I held her hand. You don't have to apologize anymore. But I do. Sophia. She looked at me. The reason we're here isn't because you never made mistakes. She stayed quiet. It's because you chose to fix them. Her eyes softened. I was afraid. Of what? That after I hurt you, you would never love me again. I smiled. Do you know what I was afraid of? She shook her head. That you would never love me at all. That sentence made her emotional. She moved closer, then whispered, I should have told you sooner. Told me what? She looked at me. The same woman who once couldn't say a single emotional sentence. The same woman who needed a year to admit she cared. Finally said, I love you, Oliver. I froze. Not because I didn't know, but because hearing it from her meant everything. I smiled. I love you too, Sophia. She leaned against me, then quietly said, You know? What? I used to think a contract was the safest way to keep someone. And now? She smiled. Now I know the only way to keep someone is to make them want to stay. I looked at her, and I realized something. Our first marriage was built on a contract. A deal. A deadline. But our second chance was built on something completely different. Trust. Love. And a choice we both made every day. Sophia Anderson was once the woman who let me walk away. Now she was the woman who held my hand and asked me to stay. And I did. Not because of a contract. Not because I had to. But because after everything, there was nowhere else I wanted to be. People often asked me what it felt like to be married to Sophia Anderson. Most expected me to say something about wealth. About luxury. About living beside one of the most powerful women in America. But the truth was much simpler. Being married to Sophia meant learning that the strongest people could also be the ones who needed love the most. And it also meant accepting that our story was never really about a contract. It was about two people who were afraid of losing each other. A year after our second wedding, Sophia invited me to an important company event. It was the annual Anderson Global Shareholders Meeting. Normally, I avoided these kinds of events. Not because I was uncomfortable, because I knew how people looked at me. Before, I was just the man who married Sophia Anderson. Some people thought I was lucky. Some thought I was using her. Some thought I didn't belong beside her. I never cared about strangers' opinions. But Sophia did. And that day, I realized she had been waiting for the right moment to change that. When we arrived, several executives greeted her immediately. Ms. Anderson. Mr. Anderson. I noticed they looked at me differently. Not with curiosity. With respect. That surprised me. Sophia noticed. She leaned closer. You're wondering why everyone is acting different. I smiled. Am I that obvious? To me, yes. I looked at her. She smiled. A year ago, she rarely smiled at me. Now she could read me better than anyone. What did you do? She looked ahead. I told them the truth. The truth about what? About who helped me build this company. I stopped. Sophia? She turned to me. I know you don't like attention. That's true. But you deserve recognition. I shook my head. I didn't do it for recognition. I know. She held my hand. That's why you deserve it more. During the meeting, Sophia presented the company's next 5-year strategy. Everyone listened carefully. She was confident, focused, brilliant. The woman everyone knew. Then, near the end, she surprised everyone. There is one more person I want to recognize. The room became quiet. Sophia looked toward me. My heart immediately started beating faster. Sophia? She ignored my warning look. She continued. When Anderson Global faced its biggest crisis 2 years ago, there was someone who solved problems nobody else noticed. When everyone focused on numbers, he focused on people. When everyone saw me as a CEO, he reminded me I was human. Her voice softened. That person is my husband, Oliver Carter. The entire room applauded. I looked at her. Not because of the applause. Because I knew what this meant. The old Sophia would never share her spotlight. But the woman beside me now wanted the world to know I mattered. After the meeting, I found her alone outside. You really did that? She turned around. Yes. You know I don't need everyone to know. I know. Then why? She walked closer. Because for a year, I made you feel invisible. I stayed quiet. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel that way again. Those words hit me harder than I expected. Because that was Sophia. When she loved someone, she didn't do it halfway. She gave everything. That night, we returned home. Sophia changed into comfortable clothes and sat beside me. No makeup. No expensive dress. No CEO image. Just my wife. She looked at me. Oliver. Yes. Are you happy? I smiled. That's a strange question coming from you. Why? Because a year ago, you never asked. She looked down. I know. I touched her hand. I'm happy. Really? Really? She smiled. Then she asked, even though your wife is difficult? I laughed. Very difficult. She narrowed her eyes. Oliver. But. I pulled her closer. I wouldn't trade you for anyone. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, I used to think love made people weak. And now, she looked at me. Now I think love is the reason people become brave. I smiled. That sounds like something you would say after becoming emotional. She rolled her eyes. Don't ruin the moment. I laughed. And she did something she never would have done before. She rested her head on my chest and stayed there. No work. No meetings. No pretending. Just us. Looking back, I sometimes wondered what would have happened if I had never left. Maybe Sophia would have eventually admitted her feelings. Maybe we would have found happiness without all the pain. But then I realized something. Sometimes people don't understand what they have until they almost lose it. Sophia needed to feel my absence to understand my presence. And I needed to walk away to understand something too. Love wasn't about begging someone to choose you. It was about knowing when to leave. And seeing who would come after you. Sophia Anderson came after me. Not as a CEO. Not as the most powerful woman in the room. But as the woman who finally looked at me and said, Oliver, stay. And this time, I didn't need a contract to answer. I will. 3 years after I first met Sophia Anderson, I finally understood something. The woman everyone feared was never truly cold. She was just someone who had spent her entire life believing that if she needed nobody, nobody could hurt her. But love changed that. Not because I forced her to change. Because she finally found someone she trusted enough to let go. And somehow, that person was me. One morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Sophia was still asleep beside me. That alone was something I never thought I would see. The same woman who once woke up at 5 a.m. every day for business meetings was now sleeping peacefully, holding onto my shirt. I looked at her hand. Her wedding ring was still there. Not the contract ring. The real one. The one she chose. I smiled. Sophia. She slowly opened her eyes. What time is it? 7. She immediately sat up. 7. I laughed. Relax. It's Saturday. She stopped. Then looked at me. You let me sleep? Yes. Why? Because normal people sleep. She stared at me. You know, sometimes I think you forget I'm your wife. I smiled. Actually, I think you're the one who forgets you're my wife. She raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? You still act like the CEO at home. She crossed her arms. I am a CEO. Yes. And a very successful one. Yes. But here. I pointed at the bedroom. You're just Sophia. She looked at me quietly. Then smiled. A soft smile. The kind only I got to see. I like being Sophia. Later that day, we visited the place where our story started. The apartment where we first lived together. It was no longer our home. But Sophia wanted to go back. I asked her why. She looked around. Because I want to remember. Remember what? The mistake I almost made. I looked at her. She walked slowly through the apartment. This was the place where I had everything. She touched the table. A husband. A person who cared about me. Someone who loved me without asking for anything. She turned to me. And I almost let him leave forever. I smiled. But you didn't. She nodded. Because you gave me one more chance. I shook my head. No. She looked confused. No. I didn't give you the chance. I stepped closer. You earned it. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she hugged me. No hesitation. No fear. Just a simple hug. The kind I had wanted for so long. That evening, Sophia received a call from her assistant. I watched her expression change. Work mode. The CEO was back. After hanging up, she looked at me. There's an emergency. I nodded. You need to go? She hesitated. Then shook her head. No. I was surprised. Sophia? The company can wait. Are you sure? She smiled. I spent years choosing work over everything else. She took my hand. I'm not making that mistake again. That was the moment I realized something. Sophia didn't become less ambitious because of love. She became better because she finally had something worth protecting. A few weeks later, Sophia and I attended a charity event. Many powerful people were there. Executives, investors, celebrities. Everyone wanted Sophia's attention. But halfway through the night, she walked away from a group of important guests. Straight toward me. I looked at her. You know those people were waiting for you. She shrugged. They can wait. Sophia Anderson just ignored investors? Yes. Why? She smiled. Because my husband looked lonely. I laughed. You are unbelievable. I know. Then she leaned closer. And you love me anyway. I smiled. Unfortunately. She pretended to be offended. Unfortunately. Very unfortunately. She laughed. A real laugh. And I realized something. I had spent a year trying to make the Ice Queen smile. Now, I couldn't stop her. That night, before we went to sleep, Sophia suddenly asked, Oliver. Yes. If you could go back to the day our contract ended. I looked at her. What would you do? I thought for a moment. The old me would have said, I would ask you to stop me. But now, my answer was different. I would still leave. She looked surprised. You would? I nodded. Yes. Why? I held her hand. Because if I didn't leave, you might never realize you loved me. Her eyes softened. And if I never came after you? I smiled. But you did. She was quiet. Then she moved closer. Oliver. Yes. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me completely. I kissed her forehead. I almost did. She smiled. I know. That scared you. More than anything. I looked at her. The woman who once controlled everything. The woman who never feared losing a deal. Never feared losing money. Never feared losing power. But she feared losing me. And that was when I knew. Our story was never about a contract marriage. It was about two people who found each other at the wrong time. And chose each other at the right one. Because some promises don't need signatures. Some marriages don't need contracts. And some people are worth walking away from everything to find again.